Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI. Today we're gonna continue with our explorations of noding using animation nodes. Yeah, as you can see, this is the familiar 3D view, but I will also get more inspirations from processings. Processing is another tools. It's an open source tools. It was originally developed by Casey Ray and Ben Fry, I believe, and it's been available since 2001, and it's now processing 3, and it's basically like a programming language using Java, and you could create some like a visual artworks as the result. So you use a lot of code like this, and you can generate interesting images. Let me show you like a couple. So that's Daniel Schiffman. I'm still learning processing. I know the basics, and I read a lot of processing books and lots of interesting artworks created. They call it generative design or generative artwork. Similarly, with animation nodes, we kind of creating like a generative art as well, but it's mostly in 3D, and it's a different kind of complexity, really. But the fact that we are using nodes, and that's kind of another extra level of complexity in itself. But also nodes makes everything really simple. While with processing, I'm using this processing tree with I'm in a Python mode. Normally, a few years back, it's only available in Java. Now they have it in Python. It's really a lot simpler now with Python. It might have like limitations with the library, but let's say I'm just gonna show you a demo. I'm not gonna continue talking. Okay, here with the processing, we have like the setup for the canvas size, and then we can also draw. Draw is kind of like a loop, like a special loop in processing. So it's kind of like in animation nodes when we have like, if we create a new node 3 and then we create a loop. Where's the loop? Okay. Oh, that's a stretch up. Okay. That's whenever we create a loop inside animation node, it's kind of like that guy here. It's called draw. Yeah. I'm just gonna run it. So let's see. The result's gonna be like still processing. With Python mode, it's a bit slow sometimes. Yeah, so it's like that's the result. So we have a canvas size of 400 by 400 pixels, and with this processing using Python language, it says create a fill color that's random in RGB, and then this text functions is gonna write BLENDERSUSHI, and then it's gonna just draw it randomly within the width and the height. Yeah, so the processing is really cool like that. So we have this kind of artworks, kind of random, but yeah, that's if we are drawing using text, kind of like in type in BLENDERSUSHI like that, and then inside animation nodes we kind of need to be using object instancer. I'm gonna show you real quick. We don't know how many copy yet. I'm gonna source this text anyway. Source the text object, and then let's turn off auto execution, and I can randomly place it as we already know. So this is the instance. So we are making copy first. like 10 copies, and then we're gonna loop through the objects, and then we're gonna transform the objects, object transform output, and we're gonna randomize the position, plug that in, and then we're gonna tell, okay, create a random number, no, random vector, because it's in 3D, we need a 3 value XYZ, plug into the index, and we're gonna output it. Are we seeing any result? No, because we are not calculating. I believe random vector objects list in, let's turn on. Okay, so we have 10 copy, we can have like 50 copies, and then, you know, it's text. You already know this, but for first timer, yeah, that's how you do it using animation nodes. Slightly different way of thinking, because it's all nodes. We didn't type anything, you know, because behind the nodes, of course, we have scripts, like a code, and the nodes make it really simple, like that. Yeah, so that's when working with text objects. Inside processing, we have function, we have the loop, and then we have codes to write the canvas size. Same thing over here. We can play with let's say with the scale, rotations. That's pretty easy, basic thing. With processing, we can also source things like image. Source the image, make canvas size of 400 by 400 pixel, and then we have image functions here. It's gonna create like an object, and we're gonna draw the image. I'm just gonna run it, wait a few seconds, and the result, let's see. It's loading, it's basically loading my snail, BLENDERSUSHI snail logo right here. Okay, that's the result. And that's the original snail logo. And that's processing doing this random drawing of the image. So I guess that's enough processing. We're gonna try doing it using Blender, and I will attempt to do that. Also, I will show you how to do it using dynamic paint. Because with processing, you know how whenever it draws things randomly, unlike in Blender, see, this is a Blender drawing 50 different copies of the text. This is actually 50 objects, okay? It's 50 3D actual image, actual objects. That's 50, that's a lot. We can draw 1,000, 10,000, and Blender can handle it. But 100,000 or 1 million or even more, it's gonna, no matter how big RAM you have, it's gonna crash, okay? Or maybe it's gonna be too slow to process and you can't really render it out. But with processing, because it's actually basically drawing or burning pixels every frame, it doesn't matter. It have like you can have like a million. It looks like it's drawing millions or billion until all the pixels is covered. So that's with processing. But with Blender, we sort of able to do that if we are using dynamic paint. So dynamic paint is one feature of Blender that maybe not many people knows. So I did this earlier. It's kind of like a silly, like a text drawing thing. It's kind of like similar to what I did in processing just now. And I'm using animation nodes, sorry, animation nodes to kind of paint this stamping, like a random stamping of text using dynamic paint. I'm not sure if many people actually ever try to do this. This is actually like a multiple text. I have later I have this word nodes and then Blender and then sushi and then animation all mixed together. And in fact, I have another one. So this is just another random stamping of icosphere. And I'm using the color is not really random. I'm actually sampling different noise with this. Yeah, and this is using Blender Dynamic Paint, and this is actually painting in a pixel level. It's not just a vertex color. Yeah, so maybe today I'm gonna start with something that's much simpler before we get to the image sampling, and then we try to make like a Mona Lisa or something. No, I'm gonna make it really simple first. You're gonna see the whole process. So I'm gonna be using the icosphere. Okay, for now, icosphere. This guy, icosphere, low polygon. Gonna save it. So this is the beginning of like a creative noding. Instead of creative coding, it's a creative noding, and I'm doing it live. I might make mistakes and stuff, but I'm gonna fix it. So let's call it AN stamping basic. Save Blender file. That's gonna be our stamp object, and we're gonna stamp object using dynamic paint. Okay, we just have like a single object right here. I'm gonna hide the lamp and the camera. I'm gonna quickly create our canvas, which is normally is a grid, but I'm gonna use plane actually. Plane. Oops, sorry. And reset it. I'm gonna scale the plane. Yeah, this should be pretty good. You see, this is actually a 3D object. That's a flat object. We're gonna draw things on a flat object. Okay, that's the basic. We're not gonna do it in 3D, but you can later. This is gonna be the canvas. We're gonna be using the features called dynamic paint. Once more, this is really cool feature in Blender. Not many people knows it. Only people who have used Blender for a while, they will find out about dynamic paint. So this is our flat grid. I'm gonna turn it into dynamic paint canvas. Okay, and everything is default. I'm just gonna click add canvas. That's the default. It's in the format is in the vertex mode. We can switch to image sequence at some point to go to the pixel level, but now we're gonna be at the vertex level or the point level. Okay, vertex mode first. It's gonna be calculating frame 1 to 250. Be careful with this. You might have like a 1000 frame, but if this is only 1 to 250, it's gonna calculate only within that frame range. Surface type is paint. Leave it as at default like that. The output, dynamic paint. I'm usually gonna quickly turn on this. This is like gonna be the vertex color. Next thing to do is to turn this icosphere into brush object. So with the object selected, click on dynamic paint, switch to brush mode, add brush. Okay, now it should be actually, we are ready to start. This is the default setting. Okay, with the canvas, of course, and we are painting in the vertex mode, we need to ensure that we have enough vertices. At the moment, it's only have 4 vertices. It's not gonna do anything. Okay, I'm gonna add subdivisions, subdivision surface, and this subdivision I'm gonna switch to simple. And this subdivisions modifier, because this is like a stack thing, this subdivision needs to come before the dynamic paint, so we're gonna put it on the top. Now we start to see something. we're gonna subdivide these objects a couple of times, like 3, 4, 5, even 6 times, and this is pretty good. That's a pretty good kind of still low resolutions. How many vertices we have? There's 4,267. That's still pretty good to start with, and we can already see it's painting using the brush that we specify. This guy, maybe I'll turn it into a wireframe so we can see the painting underneath. So switch to wireframe. Okay, you see that's it's already drawing something. Go to view from top, but it's of course it's a low resolutions. Let me try if I'm trying to draw something. I'm gonna do like a manual keyframing for now. Keyframe, and then keyframe there. You see, it's painting. And that's actually really cool already. But it's a manual painting, and I don't like manual. We're gonna do it procedurally using animation nodes. Okay, that's still our tool. But if you want to paint it like that, feel free to do so. Just to start with, go back to let's delete the animations. Actually, let's have one thing I should tell you. You can use object material to paint, and if you have like a texture, it will also stamp the texture into the canvas. But that's gonna be for advanced tutorial. There is a color blue. This is the default color. This is a nice kind of a blue jeans color or sky. You can change this into red, and then it's gonna color it red. And you know what? Blender is really kind of interactive. When we have the playback running like that, and the animations, and then the keyframe, everything, we can change the color. Okay, this is really also a really cool feature. So you can do this kind of effects using animation nodes, because you can control almost any attributes, and it's live as well. So we're gonna explore all that real soon. What else I should tell you? Oh yeah, the canvas at the moment is a vertex mode, and then it's outputting this DP paint map. This is actually the vertex colors. Okay, it's painting vertex colors. As I mentioned previously in my previous video, in Blender we can work in the Blender render, internal render, or cycles render, which is like a GPU, more like a GPU based renderer. And in order to transfer the color in cycles, we use the vertex colors. And I kind of mentioned, oh, you can't use vertex colors in Blender renders. I was actually wrong. That's actually really wrong. We could actually render out vertex colors in Blender internal. Sorry about that, but basically this is how. So you just create a materials, just any normal Blender render materials, and then just simply turn on the vertex color paint. And these will look at the vertex color information here, which is from the dynamic paint. And then if I try to render it out, oh, it's actually black because we don't have any light. Let me create a quick point light, render it out. Can't see anything because there is no painting happening. And maybe turn on the global illuminations, the ambient occlusions on. Render. Should be seeing the dynamic paint result. Maybe the camera is not painting, it's not correctly displaying it. Camera active set, align active camera to view. Okay, that's it. Material on, vertex color paint. Turn on shadeless, render. Still nothing. Maybe I did something wrong. The dynamic paint is on. Object color. Huh, interesting. It was working earlier. Let's see, DP paint map. Maybe I need to cache it, because with dynamic paint it's actually caching this in real time. So back with this guy, change the color, render it out. Still white. I must have missed something. Dynamic paint map, paint, initial color. Probably I need to give initial color. Stop it. Still nothing. Don't worry about that. We're gonna get back to that later. Anyhow, let's get rid of the animations, clear keyframes, and now let's switch to animation nodes, compositing animation nodes, and we still have the playback right here. Still painting. Switch to top. Okay, this is our icosphere. We're gonna make like a random stamping. Random stamping is always a good basics lessons. This is a blank canvas. We don't have anything. Let's get started. Create a new node 3. Let's grab. Let's create object instancer first of all. Object instancer, because let's see. Okay, actually before even we create like a object instancer, we're gonna just stamp this object randomly. Okay, that's the first lesson. Object transform output. Let's grab this object and then the location. Now we have control over the location of these objects. But we have to be careful, because the brush, if the brush is too far from the canvas, it's not going to be painting. And since this is like a kind of like a 2D paint lesson, we're not gonna do anything with the Z axis. We're gonna just turn off the Z. We're gonna be just I'll reset the Z to 0. Turn off the Z. We're just gonna work in X and Y. Okay. With dynamic paint, also, if you're actually I believe if you're in the frame 1, it's gonna update the painting instantly. In order to see like a painting, you need to have the playback running, so it's gonna be caching the color data. Okay, let's go back. top view, icosphere controlled by animation nodes. Let's do random stamping and random coloring. Okay, that's the first. For random stamping, we can use random vector. We don't need to use loop because we're not using multiple objects. We'll leave the loop later. So if we plug in the vector into the locations, we're gonna have the objects randomly positioned. However, this is not very clear, so I'm gonna show the debug drawer. I want to see the output of this random vector. So this is outputting minus 0.27 to 0.18. So the number is between -1 and 1, I believe. Okay. It's already kind of stamping randomly. Although we need something to control it over time in order for this to work, so we're gonna use time info, plug this into the seed, so it's gonna be generating random number every frame. Now we already have random stamping. It's really low resolution at the moment, but you can increase this. It doesn't matter, and you can even go to the pixel level instead of the point painting like this. So, and first of all, I need to increase the random vector number. So I'm using scale here. And let's have a look. So this is the basic random stamping using animation nodes and dynamic paint. This is really good because it visually tells you what happens behind this system. You can play around with the scale, but normally what I did is see. Looks like it's generating numbers between 0. If the scale is 1, it's gonna be generating numbers between minus 0.5 and 0.5. So scale 2 is good, it's gonna be generating numbers between -1 and 1. However, we're gonna, instead of using the scale, we can use a map range. We know that originally the value random value is between -1 and 1, so that's the input. And so we want the output to be, let's say this is let's see what's I'm using the cursor here, and okay, -8. We want it to be between -8 and 8, and using the map range right here. So, and since map range works only for a single value at one time, we're gonna need to have 2 for the locations. Okay, I'm gonna separate the vector because it's 3 numbers. Gonna separate it. Plug in the x value in there, and then the y value in there, and we're gonna combine the vector in there and plug into the locations for our icosphere. So now we actually have control over, like a more control over the positioning of this stamping. It's gonna be between -8 and 8. You can go between -20 and 20, but that's gonna be outside of the canvas. Show you real quick. So it's outside of the canvas. You don't want that. We want it to be within the canvas. Okay, that's super basics, and we are still only using a single color. The color we have is in the dynamic paint brush. That color is pink at the moment. Let's turn it back to blue. Okay, let's see, polka dots. This reminds me of this Japanese artist that really love circle. Kind of forgot her name now. Yeah, polka dots. We can control the scaling here. Let's say 0.3. We have like a smaller dots. 0.6, bigger dots. And if you want like a random scale for the dots, you can simply by using random. Are we gonna be using random vector? We can use random vector as well for now. So we're gonna plug in the frame into the seed, plug in the vector into the scale, and let's see what result we got. So you see the our brush is turning into like a ellipse, kind of like oval egg kind of shape, because the scale is random. It's giving random value for each scale X, scale Y, scale Z. We don't actually want that. We want the scale to be kind of proportional, so we can use a random number. With random number we have a min and max. This is kind of useful. Let's say we want random number between 0.5 and 2. Let's plug the frame number into the seed. So every frame is gonna generate random number, and the random number can go into the scale. This is a single value though, and if we plug into the scale, it's 3 values like a vector it's expecting. It's gonna create this conversion. Let's have a look. So it is now generating random scaled objects at every frame, and it's gonna be doing this stamping. That's actually kind of nice. Okay, that's the beginning of our explorations with nodes. I was really inspired by processing because I do have, before I learned programming, when I first started programming, I use processing a lot, and I get to some point where okay, I need to learn Python, and then I switched to Python, and then with Python, hey, we can't really draw anything because Python, you need to load the right module, and then okay, and then later on I found out, hey, there's a Python mode in processing, so it's a lot easier now. Yeah, so this is still, remember, this is a 3D objects, and this is dynamic paints in Blender, and dynamic paints itself has a lot of features that it might surprise you. Dynamic paints, let's say dynamic paint effects, we can use spread. For example, the spread by default is super fast. So see, it's randomly drawing these polka dots effects, and it's actually the color is spreading. You can use this to kind of wipe the screen. It's kind of nice effects. With red, it's kind of a little bit bloody, but we can use different color later. But I'm just going to show you the dynamic paint effects. So the canvas is live. We can use spread. You can control the spread speed, the color spread. Nice. Drip effects. Drip effect is actually gonna be influenced by the gravity. I haven't used this much. The gravity, I think because the gravity is falling down, we can't really see it here. We might be able to change the gravity, the force of gravity, and there's other force. And we can use Blender force to affect the painting. Surface movement, velocity, acceleration. That's a lot, you know. You can try. There's also shrink. Shrink, I like the shrink effects. It gives a turn on shrink. By default, it's too fast, but it's shrinking the paint over time. Maybe I need to turn off spreading and shrinking. It gives like a really natural look. You can watch this like for a while. It's kind of really meditative, kind of. You look at this, even though this is super low res, still it's pretty good. Already you can, like I said, you can of course increase the divisions. Maybe use 2 of these subdivisions and increase it until we can't see the square anymore. Or even better, if you really want, you can go to the pixel level. I'm gonna save this real quick. This is still the basic, you know. You can generate pixel, high-res pixels. I think I'm going to show it to you. Instead of using vertex or coloring the points of the grid, you can turn on anti-aliasing and then switch to image sequence. Here you can specify what resolutions you want the image gonna be. I don't know if there is a limit, but I am gonna use 1024 or even 400 by 400, just like processing, I guess. If I'm not wrong, you can correct me. Processing works mainly using vector, but in Blender, see, with dynamic paints, it's pixel level. So pixel level has its own advantage and disadvantage, but we're gonna draw it anyway. Image sequence 400 by 400. What I found out is if we are gonna show it to you, if you're in a always mode and dynamic paint is on, Blender might crash, so I turn this off and just turn on frame change. It's gonna only calculate when the frame is changing. Okay, now we're not gonna be seeing anything on the screen because we are in the pixel level. We need to bake it out. Resolution 400. Actually, I can go to 800. Doesn't matter. It's gonna be for a demo, like a live demo. This is okay. This is how you do it. We need a UV map. So this grid doesn't have UV by default. I'm gonna quickly hit Tab and then U and then unwrap. Now we have UV. Select the UV map. It's gonna be caching it to cache dynamic paint. So I believe I previously have I have this cache dynamic paint older one. I'm gonna spec it up. That's the default folder. Just BLENDERSUSHI logo. Who is the Japanese artist Polka Dots? She's really famous. Yayoi Kusama. Yayoi Kusama san. I've been to one of her exhibition in Sydney, and especially this one is pretty amazing. Yeah, her obsession with dots is amazing. It's almost like beyond what you think human can do. But you know, we're gonna use dynamic paint instead of manually painting the dots. Dynamic paint. But I'm gonna use her as my inspiration as well. This room full of dots is amazing. We can recreate these effects using Blender, okay, and animation nodes and dynamic paint. Okay, that's gonna be the thing. That's gonna be the new trend. Tell these techniques to everyone you know. They can make anything on any computer. Just go to any public library or your school library, download Blender and make artworks like Yayoi Kusama, okay? I challenge you to do that. Bake image sequence, let's do that. It's gonna be doing the baking. It's gonna be saving it into cache underscore dynamic paint folder. I think it's calculating. Yeah, okay, it's calculating now. You can see the percentage. It's gonna be generating 250 frames. It's gonna be super slow because I'm recording this as well. We can further look into Yayoi Kusama works. Polka dot. White over red. That's nice. Should have done that. We actually have red over white canvas. The result. Let's turn off processing. It might be slowing down everything. Cache dynamic paint, that's the output. We can actually see the result right away. This is live. And let's observe this real quick. Because we are using icosphere, you see this is 3D. This is all 3D is all about details. If you give it like a low res, it's gonna output low res, of course. Obviously, we don't want low res. We want a little bit higher resolution, so we're gonna stop the baking. Escape. Also can stop the baking. Baking cancelled. Nice. Okay. Thanks. Our brush is super low res icosphere. Let's increase the subdivision. Dynamic paint. Increase the subdivision surface, but be careful here because this is another stack modifier. We need this subsurf to be calculated first before we use dynamic paint. Okay, the one at the bottom is the last in the chain. View and render, we want the view to be a little bit higher, render also a little bit higher. Save it, file, save it as new versions. So we have higher resolutions canvas now. It should be like almost like a sphere. Polka dots. We could have like initial color white. We can have initial color red, and then our brush to be using white, just like Yayoi Kusama. Kusama. Let's see, go back to the canvas, select the canvas, and now hit bake. Where's the bake? Bake image sequence, that's cool. Oh yeah, one more thing. If I'm not wrong, this is actually outputting PNG and we have transparency. You might want transparency or you might not want that. If we don't have the initial color, it's gonna be outputting transparency. Let's bake. Transparency, what I mean is, so I have a previous output here, dynamic paint, and You see here, this is a Mac, and we can see the transparent behind it. You see how, okay, now it's back to Yayoi Kusama, kind of. Okay, that's the result we got so far. 2 polka dots. So, okay, good. It's pretty fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm not recording, this is actually a lot faster. But remember that we are really we are in the pixel level, and we are outputting 800 by 800 pixels. You think it's pretty low res, but it's actually quite big already for. It depends what you're doing, you know. These days we have like a mobile phone that can output a 4K, which is like 4,000, around 4,000 by 4,000 pixels. That's a lot of pixels, you know. We take lots of kids nowadays probably takes everything for granted. They want everything to be HD. Low res is cool too. Pixel level is cool. Like a pixel art is cool. That's a polka dot. Random polka dot generated using Blender, using animation nodes to place the position of the dots. Okay, I guess it is pretty cool. I quite like the results so far. We can stop it now. I'm gonna stop it now. Stop it. Baking cancelled. Nice. I'm gonna rename this inspired by Yayoi Kusama. Thank you, Miss Yayoi Kusama. Save this file, save as. Let's switch the initial color back to white. Like here, if you say none, it's gonna be outputting transparency. We can do that. Okay, let's get back to this. What do we have so far? Back to animation node. Frame. Plug into random vector, and the random vector is going to be used for the location. That's very clear, right? You understand it super clear by now. It's generating random locations, and it's also generating this random number for the scale. We didn't play with the rotation yet. You can do that, of course. And it's randomly generating dots. What else? What else can we do? We can randomize the color. That's the next thing. Let's see, random color and animation nodes. You already know how to do this as well if you follow my previous video. This is even more basic. So object attribute output. This node can control almost everything. Okay. Select that object, icosphere, and then grab the color of this dynamic pane of that object. Right click, copy data path, paste it into here. You see it's actually specific for that object. For that object, with modifiers name, dynamic paint, brush settings, paint color. So this is cool. This is really cool. It's not every 3D package allows you to access that. That's really simple, you know. Random color, random vector. Let's try random vector. As we already know, this random vector will generate numbers between -1 and 1. Let's see how it affects the value here. Again, let's plug in the frame into there, vector in the value. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully it's not complaining, everything working. It does work right away. Remember, we also have this alpha control. It's doing a polka dot. At the moment, remember, we were we changed the setting into pixel level. Let's get back to vertex level. Now we can see the result on the screen. Yeah. So random color, and we still have the shrinking effects. Very, very nice. This color, so the RGB is actually between 0 and 1, and then this is actually between -1 and 1, so sometimes we get super black. We don't want that. We want map range. So let's separate the vector generated by this guy. If we and then combine vector back, this value between -1 and 1, we want it to be between 0 and 1. Remap is super useful. So continue on. Let's plug into that. Each one of the XYZ is gonna be remapped. It's becoming the RGB of our brush color. Let's have a look. So now we have like a random color. It's even more beautiful now because we don't have like a colors that's too dark. It's just super colorful now. We can turn off the shrink. Turn off shrink. Let it. You can use spread. Yeah, and then see. Let's see how the artwork's gonna be generated. Pretty cool stuff. That's really natural looking as well, just like a watercolor. Man, that's amazing. There is a tool called Substance Painter. I thought it might have similar kind of features where you can randomly paint. Yeah, you can do that using Blender. It's it's even procedural, you know. You could have like a sphere or a torus or even a monkey, and you can paint it procedurally like that. Yeah. It's a procedural texture painting, and we can see the effects live. So that's why I say this is a live noding, and it's also a creative noding. You can generate this real quick, and you can hang it on the wall. You know, really cool stuff. Random color is nice. Maybe I'll show you one more thing here. I haven't used loop yet. We're gonna save loop for the next video tutorial, I guess. We just have a single brush at this point, and the brush is just randomly stamping it all over the place. If you want, instead of random position, we can use wiggle. Wiggle. Let's see. Wiggle. Let's use a vector wiggle. Let's delete anything that's to do with a location, so it's clear. So let's see what we have right now. You see the brush is just staying there. Hey, look at the effect. Look at I'm gonna hide the brush. Look at that effects. That's really cool, really amazing looking. In fact, I'm challenging you to do that. So we make the brush stays in one position and take a break there and then paint it and then move to the next position and then keep doing it. We're gonna have like a beautiful modern painting. It's really like I say, I'm not gonna say I'm the first one, but if you watch this video and you make it, then you're gonna be an artist, you know. Okay, back to wiggle, factor wiggle. We're gonna using this wiggle. We really can, as you already know, it's gonna push the objects. It's gonna push the objects and kind of, it's kind of doing this wiggle. It's kind of moving in random fashions. Let's see it in action instead of continuing talking. Plug the frame into evolutions instead of the seed. Okay, that's the key. And then plug the vector into the locations. Let's see what we got now. It's wiggling. I'm pretty sure it's wiggling and it's actually moving slowly. Let's increase the wiggle amplitude 10 and speed to 3. See how it goes. If the speed is too big, you know, if the speed is too big, it might create like a stipple pattern. Might wanna have small. So, but wiggle is cool. View from the top. See that effects, and this is actually this is actually point. See, this is super low res, but the advantage of super low res is Blender can display it in real time. If you're happy with you see, this is interactive. You have control over everything, and you can see why it's doing what. It's very, very clear. At the moment, you look at the wiggle. I think it's wiggling between -10 and 10 because the amplitude is 10. You can use octaves and persistent as well and get a different results. You can play with the node seed. It's gonna generate different wiggle. At this moment, it's really doing the scale and wiggle at the same time. If I turn the scale into 0.5, for example, let it draw using just a simple brush, and I maybe turn off the spread for now. See this. Let's see, it's wiggling. Wiggle is actually basic Perlin or Blender Perlin noise behind it. So it's doing this stamping of dots, and it's drawing like a squiggling line. It's kind of like if you give a pen to a baby or kids and they're scribbling. That's what this computer is doing. So what else should I show you? Wiggling, random color. The color random is changing over time. Let's stop it for now. See, random color is nice, but what would be nicer is instead of random color, let's cut it, save it, and save new version. Instead of random color, we might want to provide a random, our own color, you know, color, create color list. What color? Let's see. Yayoi Kusan has this room, this color right here, like a orange, blue, greens. Let's do that. magenta, orange, blue, this kind of blue, and green, kind of all the nice color. There's maybe even yellow. We can add that later. This we can plug into the value, and actually it's not gonna work. We need to use get items from element, get list elements, and the index can be, let's see what it does. So we have list of colors here, and we use this node to select which color. So at the moment it's at index 0, it's going to be using orange. Switch to index 1, it's going to be using, oh wait, animation nodes, 3 chains, property chains, not always. Okay, it's going to be doing it for us. So it's using orange now. Next going to be value has wrong type. Oh, right. Separate color. Color is actually, okay, color is actually RGBA, and this guy is expecting just RGB without the alpha. So we're gonna have to separate the color more and then combine it back. Combine vector. RGB, plug in this into that guy. So now it's doing it. Using index number 2, which is the third color, is painting blue. Index number 1 is painting using orange color. 0 is like the magenta color. I found that the color looks a little bit darker. Maybe I need to maximize it. Full saturations. Okay, so we can change the index. Okay, that's nice. We can increase this and then adding another color. You see how interactive this is? That's what we want. Okay, this is the advantage of using Blender and animation nodes. The effects is all procedural. Everything is here. You can see the color happening. Very nice. What else? What else can we do? Just wiggling with our color. I kind of like, instead of wiggling, we really can use the random, but we already left that with the color. Okay, this is when we change the index. Let's say we use a random number between 0 and 4, and we use the frame into the seed and plug this into the index. Now what's gonna happen is, for every frame it's gonna randomly pick this color and then use that color to staple to make the design. Maybe min and max, that should be 5, so we have the yellow as well. That's nice, but you know what's missing here? The color is changing abruptly, kind of like okay, yellow and then blue and then red. What would be nice if we could have like a color that's changing value in a linear fashion, you know? There's like a transition and then nice interpolations happening. As you already know, we can do that. Random number, blah blah blah. Plug. This is our color list. Plug this in, plug that in, plug the result in there. Let's have a look. So it's now yellow, and then it's switching to another still kind of random because we are actually using random number. Random number is not, it's jumping around, but you can use repeat. Now there's actually a transition between these two colors. If you don't believe me, I'll use a color like just red and blue, for example. Let's delete other color. Red and blue. See there we got like a purple. It's transitioning, but it's still randomly jumping around because it's a random number. So this is where we actually use instead of this frame plug into random number, we want wiggle number. With number wiggle, it's kind of the noise. We are using noise functions instead of random numbers which is jumping around like that. Wiggle is more smooth. Okay, we like it smooth. So frame into the evolution, plug this into the number goes into the vector, and the wiggle goes between 0 and 1 or minus 0 and 1. I don't know. I think it goes to minus as well. So now we can see the transitions between blue and red is in a smooth fashion. It's possible that the color, let's have a look. Instead of guessing, let's debug it. Debug drawer. Color goes 0.7. When it's nearing 1, it's more like blue. When it is nearing 0, it's gonna be red. This is really why I like animation nodes a lot, and Blender is all procedural, and we can see the effects happening really nicely. Interactive is a big thing for me as a CG artist. Really only until today that I can see everything so clearly, like with a tool like Blender and animation nodes and dynamic paint. This is just perfect way to introduce kind of a programming concepts, even though it's not typing programming, but we're really doing a lot of programming concept right here. You can stamp anything, not just this icosphere. Okay, so instead of keep talking, I will gonna file import STL, and I'm gonna import the snail logo. This BlenderSushi logo is made of snail and kangaroo, and it's like letter B for BlenderSushi and for Blender. Kind of like it. It's kind of 3D, this guy. I always want to print it out. It's nice. Stop talking. Center this the origin. Set origin to geometry. Let's see how it goes. Procedural stamping. It's the icosphere. Let's get our icosphere back. Icosphere is having these subdivisions. Turn off. Let's delete the subdivision so it's back to low poly. Now I can source this guy. There are two things you can do. You can turn this guy into brush and then do everything again, or you can just go to the mesh of this. This is the object, and go to the mesh, change the mesh into snail, and now we got the snail. You see real quick. So this is actually like a 3D brush. Okay, this is again, we are in 3D environment, and this is a 3D brush, and you can do like everything in 3D. If I turn on the rotation here and then I rotate this guy to be correctly perpendicular to the camera, now I can use the BlenderSushi snail logo to do the painting. And painting like that is not funny. So we want to be, again, we're gonna use a random, maybe random number, min max minus 10 and 8. I'm gonna do this real quick. Maybe I talk over 1 hour now. It's too long. Combine vector. Oops. Combine vector. The seed number is already different for each one. We don't need the z actually. Z is gonna be 0. Save this. Plug in the vector into the position, and then the random needs to be generated randomly using the frame number. And the seed, okay, plug this seed. See what we got now. BlenderSushi logo stamp, color stamping using the value that's get interpolated between red and blue. I'll show you real quick. If I this can be a bit black and white as well, so you have like a gray scale. Although it might not be in the HSB. We can do a lot of things basically. This snail logo can be scaled. Also, remember, back to the scale, we have it at 0.5. We have random scale right here. You can do between 0.5 and 1. And the alpha of the brush. The alpha of the brush is in this die. Select the brush, go to alpha 0.5, and with the color, let's see, red, yellow, and blue, and see what we got. See how the color is interpolating between red, blue, and yellow. That's actually really nice. Lots of yellow because it probably doesn't go to blue. We might need to change the map range, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave the video here. So this is like a basic fine art or basic stamping using animation nodes and Blender dynamic paint features. Yeah, so hopefully you like this video tutorial and find it useful. If you like it, please you can leave comments, or you can sign up to this channel and then let your friend knows about it and subscribe to this channel. Yeah, enjoy this new skill you have, and see you next time. Thank you.